With the release of set 11, guys, we are back with Rorowa. Uh, I've been playing him for a long time, trying to make him work, and I'm very excited to show you the update with the new iridescent flash Rorowa. So we'll just get into the profile. I won't leave you waiting too long. So we have the standard ride line, the grade 0 Rorowa, the grade 1 Rorowa, the grade 2, and the grade 3. This lineup hasn't changed because these give you just free tokens, which is really nice. And obviously, plant tokens are the name of the game, and Momoke too, but we'll get to them when we get to them. This deck, in terms of ride line, has changed. The big part of the deck is our new grade 3. So onto the grade 3s. It's 4 copies of Iridescent Flash Rorowa. This card uh, I have I have opinions. Uh, I don't think this card necessarily saved the deck and made it like super powerful, but I think it did make it a little more offensive for that kind of ideal that we're going for. So the ideal image for this deck is we're trying to rush our opponent down. So having him is really nice because instead of persona riding onto the original Rorowa, who's just like I make plant tokens and I have a defensive skill, he has more of an offensive ability, which means that we can try to push for game a lot easier. So when you ride him over the other Rorowa, you make 2 plant tokens, and these plant tokens, if they die this during either player's turn, you draw a card. So you kill both, you draw 2 cards for free. Very nice. And then you activate Persona Ride, which is really cool. So you have 1 extra chance to hit Persona Ride in your deck, which is really nice. And you don't have to run the Grail for it. And then the second ability is when he swings, you can remove a Roroa from the game, the original one. He's gonna get 5k and a crit, and then you can give another unit 5k and a crit, which will normally be your Momoke token because he wants to get as big as he possibly can. And at the end of the turn, I believe he goes to Soul. Yeah, he goes to Soul, and you ride the original Rorowa. So it's a really cool kind of function for the card. Uh, it finally gives Rorowa that like turn 4 pressure because it didn't really have that before. And then moving on to the rest of the grade 3s. Oop, that was weird. A little green flash there. Iridescent flash, right? We're still on the 4 copies of the grade 3 Radiolina, and we're still on 4 copies of the set order. So the interesting thing that I've seen people do, and I tried it too, was they cut back on 1 each of these so they could play more cards. But if I find the order card and can play it turn 3, I feel like I just like do a lot better. So I wanted to max it out, and I was like, well, we cut back on her because realistically you only do her like once a game, twice if you're lucky. But I had like a series of games where I only played 3, and I just damage checked all of them, and I was like, you know what? We're going back to 4. We're not messing around with that. But realistically, if it feels like uh, there's cards that you probably want to play instead, cutting down on a copy of her is fine. I just don't recommend cutting down on this because I think this card is really important. This is practically your 8th copies of the grade 2 Radiolina, which is what makes the deck kind of flow. You don't want to miss out on that. So that's it for the grade 3s. A little bit heavy of a grade 3 count, but like, I mean, what are you going to do, right? That they won't give you too much good lower support. Um, Moving on to the grade 2s, because I actually play more than just Radiolina. So I play 4 copies of Radiolina. This is like the heart and soul of the deck. It makes the uh, early aggression happen, you know? The cool thing about this is you can call this down on turn 2, make your, where is the little guy? Make your Momoke token, start popping some of your rear guards, and you can just bash face early on, which is really cool. But that's kind of the name of the game. We're trying to uh, force our opponent to like 4 or 5 damage by the end of our turn 3, give or take. If you can get it sooner, like go for it, man. That's just the name of the game. And I have 2 copies of Matthias. Now, Matthias has a little bit of a bad rep, but I'm going to tell you what he does. So you can Soul Blast 1 if you have a Rorowa Vanguard, or Grade 3 Rorowa. Soul Blast 1, kill 2 of your rear guards, and then call something back from your drop zone, which isn't super great, but we'll get to that in a second. Its other ability, which I really like, is to uh, on the front row at the beginning of your battle phase, if you have a Rorowa and you have a Radiolina, doesn't have to be grade 3. Very important. You make a plant token. So, grade 2 turn, this card, down with this, you make your tokens, you eat a bunch of plant tokens. Beginning of battle phase, you make another plant token off of this. You pretty much reset your board, which is really nice. Uh, so the reasons I play this is because it is at worst, I can get something back, or I can get Radiolina back from my drop zone if I need it, right? So that's the important part of playing Matthias. But also, it does have a really nice little combo with the new Rorowa. So you make your plant tokens, right? And let's say you don't have Radiolina on board. You make your plant tokens. You call this. You Soul Blast 1. You kill both the plant tokens. You bring back Radiolina. And then both the plant tokens draw you a free card. It's a really nice little combo there. Not that it like comes up super often, but it's better to run something like this than run like spiritual body condensation because I mean, or like in the dim darkness, or even like the Mythiarch, because it's just like grave recursion is cool, but I'd rather have it on a body that I can just kind of slap down and say, hey, this is a beater. I want to bump this up to 3, but I just don't really know where to cut through. Like I said, I really enjoy playing the 4 copies of the Grade 3 Radiolina, so like, I don't know. I don't really know where to cut, but I'd probably want one more copy of this card in here because I do think it's really solid. Uh, and yeah, that is it for the Grade 2s. And now on to the Grade 1s. The Grade 1s really haven't changed from the last profile I've did, but it is 4 copies of the Burrow Mushrooms. This card is still insane. Gives you soul, gives you draws. 3 copies of the Signpost Fairy. So there's a really interesting thing where you can run what is it? You could run the little citrus from set I want to say 10, who gives a grade 0 plus 5, and he draws you soul charges you a card, which is pretty nice. But the thing about this is I can just kind of keep this on board. Uh, like it's not. This isn't an on place. This is a when he dies to give something plus 10. So I've been enjoying this more because like I can just call. I could have like a bunch of these like just chilling there, and then I could be like, okay, well I'm gonna pop all 3 with him. He's going to get 15 off of that, and then each one of these is going to give him plus 10. Or I could give plus 10 to other units, which is very important. So it's just kind of it does 5,000 better than the other one, and I don't really care too much for the soul charge because I'm not trying to go through the long game with this deck. I'm just trying to like get the early like do a really good early game, and hopefully my turn 3 or 4 is it. Like that is the game. Uh, 1 copy of Diantha. Diantha is alright. This could be what I put in for Matthias, but I've kind of liked Diantha because even at worst, she's a 13k beater, which is kind of nice. Uh, and she costs a counterblast, which besides the order card and uh, Radiolina, I don't really use counterblast in this deck, so it's just kind of nice to have. And then 4 copies of the Perfect Guard. I mean, we're in that format. We can't play the Blitz Order Perfect Guard because I can't call that to the rear guard to kill if I need to kill it. So it's just better to have the regular Perfect Guards so you can call it down as pretty much tribute fodder to your little dragon. So triggers, over trigger, Blessed Favor is still really good. I don't. This is so how I see it for this deck is Blessed Favor has like that balance of offense and defense because it's going to give things power. It's going to give things a critical, like through the 10k, like 10k of the front row. It'll give something a critical. That's a decent offense part, and then it helps you with a little bit of sustain by getting you an extra card, and then uh, potentially healing you with damage. So I'd rather play that over the red over trigger, where it's like, yes, I could have a Moke attack 2 times for like 100 million, but like it it depending on what damage your opponent's at, right? Like if your opponent's at 3 damage, your opponent just looks at you and is like, okay, I'm gonna take the 2 Momoke swings, and now the rest of your turn is just like, oh yeah, that's right, I have 5k guards in hand, and it's like, I'd rather not have that. So I'm sticking with this. This has been working pretty good for me. 4 copies of the front trigger. It's just good, honestly. When you're playing a rush deck and you flip a front trigger, like sometimes it's scarier than flipping a crit because then you flip a crit, you give power to like a rear guard, and your opponent hits like a defensive, and they're like, oh, well that now this turn's a lot easier, but you have a full front row and you flip a front, and your opponent just looks at you like, oh great, you're just ripping cards out of my hand this turn. So I like having the front. I still play 2 copies of the crit, and the reason I play 2 copies of the crit, besides that I'm playing extra draws, is because I don't want my opponent to think that I'm not playing any crits. So when like I go for a swing, if they've seen fronts and they've seen draws, they're like, he's not on crits, so like I can just no guard the Vanguard, and it's just like, oh look, there's a crit. Like it just kind of like it's a quick little game steal, which is really funny. But I don't think it's good to take crits out of an aggro deck, so I want to at least play 2. I'm playing 5 draws. It's important to have draws in this deck because we are rushing. We're committing to our field every turn, so we have literally no hand. And then 4 copies of the best heal trigger. I'm not playing the because I say this every video. I'm not playing the effect triggers or effect heals because I just don't feel like they're that good. Obviously, now that we are in Minerva and what's her face, Willista meta, yes, you could argue that the one of the effect heals is a little more relevant, but Gandiva is not a bad deck anymore, so it's like, well, you're still going to see Gandiva, so and it's going to be kind of useless against that. I just don't want to potentially brick on that, as a 10k shield. I'd rather just have um, you know, the better guard. The extra 5k shield is very nice. So yeah, that was a long discussion about heal triggers we probably didn't need to have, but that's okay. So, so that's gonna do it for this one. I'm gonna catch you guys in the next video. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Later.